live, epic, occasionally based. It's the Split Take podcast, which used to be produced by the Film Sync and is currently homeless, even though the Film Sync kind of exists still.
We are without sponsors.
Well,
if we ever had one.
We were sponsored by ourselves.
We pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps.
And the friends and strangers who generously listen to us talk about movies.
Shout out to other Chandler. Shout out to DJ, even though goddamn your letterbox is an atrocity. And wow. If you hear this we need to have at work, I'm sorry, buddy, but we got to talk. We got to talk.
Yeah. Some negative ratings for some Tarkovskys, for Fanny and Alexander. Not negative ratings, but less than
high enough
ratings.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe not this episode, since we are in a little bit of a time crunch today. We'll be talking about the benefits of
slow cinema.
Boring, slow cinema. So called, so accused.
So thank you, DJ. You inspired an episode topic.
Yes. A proper discussion, which, I feel like we should do more of that. Like we've been doing a lot of just what have we been watching and then movie discussions. Whereas it'd be nice to have every once in a while, instead of what have we been watching, just like thoughts on movie topics.
I agree.
What do we think? Because theoretically, that's the interesting part of this whole.
But today we have our first topic.
We do have our first topic, and what we're going to be doing today. This is a weird episode because last week we recorded our Bo Burnham's Inside comedy special episode
Nothing
review.
Else.
And that's it. We didn't have enough time for Goodfellas, which was the paired movie. So we're going to do just Goodfellas this week. We're also going to be doing a review of our top 5 favorite Blu-rays we have in our collection.
That we own.
We own. Not including Criterions, because those would be...
That's its own video.
Yeah, that'll be its own video. So
this also gives us an opportunity to make a clickbait video. It says top 5 Blu-rays released in Region A.
I was about to disagree because I do have a couple Region Bs, but no, they're not in my top 5. Close.
Also, though. I will be presenting these Blu-rays in the order least best to best.
Interesting. I will be presenting in no order in particular. So we'll be doing the Blu-ray review, and then we'll be doing our Goodfellas review. We'll also just briefly mention what we've been watching this week, but not nearly any kind of long discussion about those things. So without further ado, I will introduce this segment as being the first kind of like specialty segment of the Split Take podcast, which will remain in this episode, but it will also be spliced out of the episode and made into its own separate video on YouTube as kind of a 100 subscriber special, because we reached, I want to say about a month ago, we reached 100 subscribers. Thank you. 100 people actually.
Thanks, subs.
Care enough to press the subscribe
Based
button.
Subs. And most of these people were subbed before we even had video. It's just subbed to us audio of us talking about movies. This is different.
Yeah. And so if this goes over well, we will be doing more special content like this, short, constrained conversations, top 10s, whatever, what have you, on the podcast that I can edit out and maybe do some extra editing and make it look nice and spicy for YouTube and in a more digestible chunk, because these episodes do tend to run long. They tend to be a bit of a mouthful to listen to. So even I recognize that sometimes we do tend to just kind of ramble, and that is partially, if there is any appeal, I feel like it might be that, but that's a big if there is any appeal to the podcast to begin with. Anyway, I'm rambling. So we're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite Blu-rays today. Obviously, you can see a bit of my Blu-ray collection in the background. You can't see Chandler's because it's in a different room, because Chandler is roomless.
I am roomless.
Not houseless, roomless.
No, just roomless.
And so these Blu-rays are not going to be Criterion collection, because we both could make lists just of those, and it would crowd out your regular good old Blu-ray with the blue case Blu-rays. So we're going to be talking about those, our top 5 each. So it's going to be a top 10 when you
go one at a time.
Yeah, sure. Let's go one forth. After another, kind of split it up. All right. So without further ado, I don't think there's going to be any more introduction. Actually, no. So we there is a little more introduction. We selected these Blu-rays based on our own criteria. I didn't really tell Chandler anything specific, so it's whether you like the cover, whether you like the movie, whether you like this bonus features, whatever.
Also, price.
You have. Price too.
Price is a big one.
You have for liking the Blu-ray, and we'll go into those reasons as to why we've picked what we have picked.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we're going to be recommending all these Blu-rays that we're
yes, well, obviously. I will say this right out the gate. One Blu-ray that I did not select, partially because it's not here. I lent it to a friend, but if it was here, I probably would pick it, was my Lord of the Rings Extended Edition box set. That's a film school. That is a $75 film school. My only complaint, it's a nice box set. I can show it next time we record, but my only complaint with that one is that they split the movies into 2 discs. Kind of dumb. But yeah, so if I got Lord of the Rings nerds pissed at me for not including what is essentially the greatest collection of behind the scenes footage ever, well, that's why it's not here. Yeah. And shout out to Brandon Sandu for not returning it.
Very funny. All right, so who's going first?
You can go first.
All right, cool. No idea what to start with, so why don't we go with? Sure. So this Blu-ray is pretty freely available at Barnes & Noble, often on sale, and it is the Phantom Thread
I have that one.
Which you might not recognize right off the bat because it actually has a reversible cover, and the original cover is this on the inside.
Not as good.
Which is fine, but clearly nowhere near as good as this wonderful cover.
Now, Jacob, let me see the back of yours real quick.
It's Never Cursed, the thing that Alma sews into the garments.
Continue speaking about this. I will be back in 1 second.
And also, I don't know if you can see in the video, there's also a disc made in Mexico stamp on there, which some people might think that brings down the value. It actually brings up the value. Very cool. Lets me know where the disc was made. Important information.
Okay, so I'm back.
Phantom Thread is
because I literally went to go pick up my Phantom Thread copy to show you that, because that pisses me off to no end that it has the Made in Mexico thing. But I'm glad you see some value in it.
I don't. But it is a this pick particular is 1, it's a great movie. 2, I love the cover, and probably out of all the Blu-rays we're going to talk about, I mostly picked that one based on the lovely cover, which I think goes with the movie, and the fact that it's on a Blu-ray. Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't have the most amount of special features on a lot of his movies.
No, really doesn't. Unfortunate.
It has enough to be worthwhile. It's got some camera tests from him, a little bit behind the scenes, some deleted scenes from the film. So there's enough there to make it a good Blu-ray purchase, and I do like watching the movie and like having it.
It's a great movie. We have talked about this movie on the podcast last year with Nick,
and it's well priced, as I said. Pretty much always on sale at Barnes & Noble. So even without the bonus features, it's a good deal.
Bonus features in Paul Thomas Anderson, that's a theme, because I find the criterion for Punch Drunk Love to be similarly lacking, which is especially an issue considering it's a criterion. But great movie, looks amazing, cover's great. My first Blu-ray this is my cheating Blu-ray, because I don't know if we discussed whether or not TV was off the table, whatever, but how could I not choose this? It is the Twin Peaks Complete Collection. It is the television collection. It comes in this nice thick case. Look at
that. It's a
comes
big
with
case.
The first 2 seasons, all 18 parts of The Return, and a shit ton of special features for both. Obviously, if we're talking like Twin Peaks releases, the Z to A it's stuff, if anyone's familiar, that has basically all this, but it comes with Fire Walk With Me. That's probably the preferred thing, but the Fire Walk With Me criterion, I feel, is essential to have on its own because it has a lot of stuff that's not included in the Z to A, whatever. So if you're asking me, personal big Twin Peaks fan, what you need to get if you want the whole experience, you get this, and you get Firewalk with Me Criterion. You have everything that you'd ever want. That was also I picked up for $50 on sale, which is that was my absolutely insane.
How much it was? It's pretty good for getting 2 seasons of a TV show. And a season of a TV show / movie, and
yeah. I haven't checked the special features for the original series. I can't imagine it's anything too extensive, but the stuff that they have for the return is amazing. That's where
a lot.
I'm sure you and I have both seen all these clips of David Lynch on the set of the return. That's David Lynch at his prime, directing little kids, arguing with producers. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. I will not be mentioning, I was torn about this. And since you picked your Twin Peaks Blu-ray, I feel less torn about not putting this officially on my list, but it is a slightly different version. It is just the season 3 Blu-ray, which is excellently designed.
It's so much fun.
It's so much fun to pull apart, and it has all, I'm pretty sure, similar special features and all that kind of stuff. But this is
I'm sure it's the same.
A well-made, solid, constructed case set for the 3rd season. So
that's also, fun fact, that is what Jacob lent me when I finally watched The Return.
Yeah.
He lent that to me over a weekend. I watched it all in 2 days, and I returned it to him promptly.
So
next... Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
I thought that was your next.
No, didn't count. Oh. That was just making a mention of Twin Peaks tends to have good content in general, which isn't the case for a lot of TV shows. They don't get Blu-ray love.
They really don't. Breaking Bad has a good one, too.
Yeah. My next one is a very recent addition to my collection, and it is mostly here because recency bias. I'm going to factor that in and say that is definitely something that's going on here, but it is my Blu-ray copy of Touch of Evil. Now, perfectly fine cover. It's about what you expect. Last time I checked, it was not available on Amazon Prime specifically, but you can get it on Amazon through like third-party sellers. I don't know what they're doing with this Blu-ray anymore. But the thing that's really fun is the amount of freaking special features, 4 different commentaries, 3 different versions of the movie, documentaries. I have yet to fully even explore this. And I actually recently we watched Touch of Evil recently for the podcast, and I watched the original theatrical cut. And I just recently watched the reconstructed version from the late 90s. And it was a wild experience being able to see something closer to what Orson Welles really envisioned. And just for that, just because it has both of those versions, including a preview version, which I have no clue what to expect from that, but I'll suppose I'll get to it eventually. This good if you can find it. Good bang for your buck. Lots of content there. Orson Welles, you can never go wrong.
It's true. It's true. This one is similar to the last one, where the main draw for this to me is the price, and that is the director's cut edition of David Fincher's Zodiac. I had a very tough time picking between this and this, which is his The Social Network. I just narrowly went with this because I like this cover a lot. It mimics the Zodiac letters. It even says, it's hard to see, special features spelled incorrectly. And I like the Social Network's cover. It's a little simple, but this, like the entire it's 2 discs. The entire first disc is the movie. A really detailed behind the scenes look at the making of the movie, and 2 commentaries, one with David Fincher and one with Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr., and the producers. But the second disc is interesting because it's 2 big feature-length documentaries about...
Feature-length? Wow.
Feature-length. The first one's feature-length. The second one might be like an hour 10. But the first one is a feature-length documentary about the Zodiac. So it gives you like a general... It basically distills a lot of what's in the book down to a documentary. And then the second one gives... it's a documentary about specifically Arthur Lee Allen, who is largely believed to be the Zodiac Killer, which is the character at the end, that they profile. It's I flip-flop a lot between Zodiac and The Social Network as my favorite Fincher. But this one really scratches that true crime itch. It looks nice, but the craziest part to me is that this, when I got it, it was cheap, but I checked recently at Zia. This is $7 at Zia.
Wow.
The Blu-ray is $7.
I don't have a copy of Zodiac, so maybe I should pick that one up.
It's pretty good. And David Fincher's commentaries are always funny to me. So that's fine.
So, speaking of David Fincher, my next favorite Blu-ray is David Fincher's Gone Girl, which is
also a great one.
Underrated, I suppose. I don't know. David Fincher's been getting some love recently, and I feel like when
not for Mank,
not for Mank, but some of his older work, and I feel like when Gone Girl first came out, people were like, "Oh, this is interesting, fun movie." You know, go on a date, watch Gone Girl. What? How could you go wrong? But you know, it was kind of dismissed as just another movie, and then I think a lot of people have been reevaluating it as a very entertaining thriller and something that has some interesting commentary on relationships and other things and yada yada yada.
Especially,
I'm not here to talk about the movie, but yeah. Anyway, so the thing about the Blu-ray is I just like the movie. I like owning the movie. It's a nice front cover, but the real thing, and I don't actually care all that much, but it's more the fact that it's here is the fact that it has inside a little amazing Amy
that's fun
booklet, which
that's a lot of fun.
I could care less about this, but it is fun just to be able to have that. Like they went the extra mile just to put this in there, and cool stuff.
You know what? Knowing David Fincher and his level of specificity, I bet he required that a full-length version of that book already exist before they start filming, so I'm sure they just included it. But that does raise an interesting point because I have that Blu-ray, and it was only $5 at Zia, and I wondered why it was only $5. And it's because it doesn't include the booklet. So I never knew it had the booklet, so that's fun.
And then, of course, it has just these things all pop out of a little sleeve, and it has just your normal little Blu-ray cardboard. There it is. And it has a commentary by David Fincher. It's not particularly loaded or anything like that regarding special features, but I love commentaries. They trump all other special features for the most part.
Especially if they're by the director.
Right. So this is fun. They put some effort into it. I like the movie, so that's Gone Girl.
That's a fun time. This is one I got recently, and I haven't even gone through it all the way. But this is just a beautifully packaged Blu-ray, which is Dog Day Afternoon. It's a 40th anniversary reissue Blu-ray.
Directed by Sidney
It's got 2 discs. Sidney Lumet, Al Pacino, John Cazale. The first one is just the movie with special features, 4-part making of documentary. And commentary by Sidney Lumet, who, if you're not familiar with Sidney Lumet, he did Dog Day Afternoon, he did Network, he did 12 Angry Men, he did Murder on the Orient Express, which Jacob has talked about extensively. But he also has arguably the greatest book on movie making, which is it's called Making Movies.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic book.
Which I've borrowed
the second
from
disc, Nick.
Yes,
Nick
didn't return it for the longest time, as one does when you borrow
the second disc. It's interesting because the second disc it has a feature-length film, a documentary, documentary called "I Knew It Was You: Rediscovering John Cazale." If you're not familiar with John Cazale, he's this guy. He's in a lot of great movies at this time. He was in Dog Day Afternoon, The Deer Hunter, The Godfather.
The Conversation,
The Conversation
Part 2. He was in 5 movies before his death, and all 5 movies were nominated, and I think most of them won Best Picture.
Yeah. So he was just a lightning in a bottle kind of actor. It's a documentary just discussing his legacy, his acting style. It's got extended interviews with Al Pacino, and it's got 2 short films, I assume, by Lumet. But it's just, it's a crazy amount of content for one disc, and I fucking love this movie. So it was like $15 as well. Cheap buy.
Yeah. This one you can usually find also at Barnes & Noble, usually pretty cheap, even if it's not. And it is Akira Kurosawa's Ron, which
you also lent me.
Studio Canal Blu-ray. Ron was originally at one point in the Criterion Collection, and now it's no longer in the Criterion Collection. And I'm just happy that there's a Blu-ray out there, because there are some Kurosawa that don't have Blu-rays, and that's a crime.
It really is
an actual crime. But this is it's a fairly standard Blu-ray. Just the fact that I have it is nice, because I really like Kurosawa. I like owning all those movies, and it's a great movie. It's got some interesting bonus features, including a feature-length documentary about the making of the movie by the director Chris Marker, who, if you remember, was the director of Sans Soleil, the movie we discussed. Do you remember that?
I do. No, I remember it.
Oh, okay.
I remember it.
Okay. And there's another one. There's another movie coming up by him. I think it's by him in the BFI list. Sorry. And
there's other documentary type thing.
I think if I get the timeline correct, for the movie Sans Soleil, there's a lot of Japanese footage in Japan, and he filmed that around the same time was on the set of Ron with Kurosawa.
Interesting.
So interesting kind of intersection there. And then there's another documentary and some other Japanese history and stuff. So a well packaged Blu-ray. Yeah. I'm glad it exists. I'd prefer obviously Kurosawa to be just in the Criterion Collection, but I'll take what I can get.
Very quick anecdote. I was rereading Sidney Lumet's book, and it opens with this interesting story that he heard from Kurosawa, where he was asked by an interviewer about a specific shot in Ron, about a giant field, it's just a shot of a giant open field in a mountain, and he thought it was framed oddly, and he asked Kurosawa, "Why would you choose that field or that mountain?" And he said, "Well, because to the left of it was the Sony factory, and to the right of it was a giant parking lot."
It's a pretty good reason.
Yeah. This all week up until about an hour ago, this was going to be my number one pick, but it just recently got bumped. But this is just the gold standard for Blu-rays, in my opinion, and that is the John Carpenter's The Thing. Not the one that you have, the Shout Factory or Scream Factory deluxe edition, which, my God, this is what a deluxe edition should be. It has the movie. It has 3 different commentary tracks. One with Dean Cundey. Oh, just 2, actually. One with Dean Cundey, and one which has, and I honestly believe of all of the... oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, are you playing downstairs now?
Well, they're waiting to see what they want to do.
Oh, okay. You can use my computer.
Cut this out.
So ghost edit. I'm just gonna start from the beginning. This is, in my opinion, this is what every deluxe edition of a Blu-ray should be. It's John Carpenter's The Thing, which is the Shout Factory, Scream Factory. Made the same mistake twice. Which they do a lot of deluxe edition type stuff for a lot of different, mainly horror stuff. They have a lot of editions of John Carpenter stuff in general because people just gravitate to his work, I guess. But this has 2 discs. The first one just has the movie. It has 2 commentaries, one by the DP, Dean Cundey, who also did Jack and Jill. And the other one, which I do believe of all of the commentary tracks I've heard, this is my favorite. Because It is John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. These two have just an immediate friendship and chemistry almost 20 years after the movie was made. It's very wholesome. And it's the perfect mixture of legitimate filmmaking knowledge, on-set anecdotes, making fun of people, and just That's 2 important. Friends catching up. It is important. It is important.
That sounds wholesome. Some of the best
it's very wholesome.
Are just cast and crew kind of hanging out and also dropping some knowledge.
Yeah, they learned a lot, but it goes above and beyond because it has teaser trailers, it has theatrical trailers, it has TV spots, it has radio spots, it has an edited version of the movie that was made for broadcast on TV. So it's like a shitty VHS rip, but you can see how they cut around a lot of the really disgusting gore. And on the second disc, That's where you have the network broadcast edition. You have shit tons of interviews. You have a feature-length documentary on the making of the thing. You have product reels, stills, behind-the-scenes footage, archive footage, deleted scenes, outtakes. It's just everything. Everything you need to know about the making of this movie is included in this disc. And it's 2 discs. The sleeve is reversible. There's the second cover. I don't like it as much. But yeah, and it was for like $30, which, you know, expensive, but you can learn everything about filmmaking in this thing. It's also just one of my favorite movies of all time. So perfect Blu-ray, in my opinion.
My 5th and final favorite, and this is probably just my favorite. I had my previous Blu-rays were just on a whim, chose them. So those are what struck me today as what my favorites were. They could change, who knows. But this one probably is my favorite. It's been my favorite for a while. And it is my 30th anniversary collector's edition of Blade Runner. And this is a beautiful little Blu-ray book thing going on here. It's 3 discs. It's got a just quality, simple cover art. But all the discs have their own little vibe going on. The original poster there, the artwork for that one, and then another poster going on there.
Is that a booklet in between the two?
It is a little booklet. So in the middle of the Blu-ray, it's just
oh my god,
booklet of little storyboards, the sets, actors, design work. It's good to just flip through. There's nothing too in-depth or anything, but a nice little visual aid to just see some behind-the-scenes visual aids for the film. The thing that makes this really special is that Blade Runner is notoriously a film that has been released many times with many different cuts. So this has all of the different cuts on there. Is
all 3 or more?
There's more. So the main disc is the final cut.
Okay, the best cut.
Disc 2 has the original theatrical cut, the international theatrical cut, and the director's cut. And then disc 3 has the work print edition. So that's before the theatrical release. And then also has special features. And the one important special feature on there, which I have yet to see, unfortunately, is I think it's like a 3-hour documentary called Dangerous Days on the making of Blade Runner.
But is it, if I remember correctly, and I'm going to have to look it up real quick, didn't Mark Kermode make that?
Yeah, he might have. I know he's been a big fan of that, and he has done a couple documentaries on things. But great artwork, lots of content. I don't really go back and revisit the other copies. But
it's nice to have.
Yes, it's nice to have. It is a good reminder that there's like 5 different versions of Blade Runner. It is nice to have all of them because that way the studio can never take them away from me like they have with the original cuts of Star Wars and other movies. So
based Ridley.
It's now in my possession, and I can peruse the beautiful artistic work of the original theatrical release and Harrison Ford's voiceover whenever I choose, if I ever choose to go back to that. So
I had to look it up. It's called the On the Edge of Blade Runner. That's the one Mark Kermode did. Mark Kermode did movies for Alien, or documentaries on Alien, Blade Runner, John Carpenter, Clockwork Orange, The Exorcist, and Dario Argento. Interesting.
So what's your final one?
Final one. And this is it's probably my favorite Blu-ray I own. And that is my giant mega deluxe edition of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Wow.
Maybe I've showed you this before, but we got here. This is a little booklet with the beautiful Jack Nicholson. Comes with the disc. I think it's got some special features. I don't know. If I remember correctly, there's a commentary. I don't know who's on it. It comes with the disc. It also comes with, in that little booklet, a little, I don't know what this is. It's like a little a thing of stills and a making of, and it's really similar to the Criterion booklets that you'd see. Mm-hmm. But also, it's got little posters for international posters, I guess. Jack Nicholson.
Huh.
More Jack Nicholson.
It's been a long time since I've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so
it's a very good.
You've reminded me of a few films I might need to get Blu-rays for.
This is the
near future.
But that's not all. So that's just the booklet.
But
and
wait,
then there's more. There's a second one, a legitimate booklet. It's like a little opens up.
Almost a book.
It's almost a book, yeah. Inside, it's got little actor bios. There's Brad Dourif. There's Danny DeVito. Basically saying what they did up until that point. Their filmography. It's super extensive. It talks about the locations, the filming, the scripts, the marketing, the distribution. Absolutely insane. And then it also comes with this little thing here. It's a little fun little envelope, kind of like the thing in Doctor Strangelove. Inside of that are little headshots. Jack Nicholson, Louise Fletcher, and so on. But that's still not all.
Oh my goodness, there's more?
This is it. This is my favorite element. It's a little piece of paper that inside of it holds... Fuck, hold on. I'm messing with this. I'm trying to get out. It holds... Get over here. A little pack of playing cards. With their faces on it. Well, I guess just Jack Nicholson's face. Well, little playing cards. Oh, no, it does have their faces. So there's the ace. There's Jack. And I don't remember him. Don't remember his name. But yeah, it's fun. I would really have to check to see what's on the actual disc. But as far as like dumb little goodies that my child brain is stimulated by, this is an S tier Blu-ray release. I just remember because I also picked this up at Zia used for about $20. And when I got home and I unpacked it and I saw all the shit was in there, I thought, damn, that was worth $20.
That's a good deal. I'd buy that for $1, as the expression goes.
Is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on the BFI list?
Oh. I don't know. It could be. I'm going to guess no, but it could be.
Well, what about Amadeus?
No, I know for sure that's
wow.
Not. Yeah,
I am cringing.
It's a crime. It's a crime that it's not on the BFI list. It's simply unacceptable. Those are two of the best movies ever made. Two.
I agree. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of my personal favorites. So there we go.
Yeah, so those are our favorite Blu-rays. I know for me, it's gonna change.
Yeah, same.
All over, and particularly now that I'm getting more other like non-Criterion boutique Blu-rays, like the Legend of the Mountain Blu-ray I have, and just started a couple Arrow, and then like Goodbye Dragon Inn cover, kind of a miss. If the cover was better, I might even have considered talking about it today, but it's collecting more of those. It's a constant process of getting more Blu-rays, and if we check in another year or so, it might be a completely different list. Who knows?
Never know.
But we will probably talk about our favorite Criterions at some point.
We have to.
How
much money we have on it.
I have no idea where to begin with making that decision, though. There's so many, and two, a lot of my favorite movies are just on there, and they all have great bonus features. So it's like picking children. Which are your favorite children?
And I'd have to reckon with the fact that I would probably choose Sallow somewhere in there.
Oh, no.
Well, because Love It or Hate It, that is a great release.
I'd have to reckon with that. All right. So before we get on to Goodfellas, which we shall momentarily, I will just go through quickly what I've been watching. I watched Billy Wilder's Witness for the Prosecution, which I have seen before, sort of, in bits and pieces, starring Marlene Dietrich and some other people. It's a great Great movie. It's on Amazon Prime, I believe, at the moment. It was written by Agatha Christie. It is a murder mystery of sorts, so it's an S-tier writer there, delivering a great script, and of course Billy Wilder delivering a great directed movie. It's not necessarily as deep or as lovable or whatever you want to say about the rest of Wilder's filmography, but it is certainly it's one of his better ones, and certainly one to check out if you haven't. Great mystery too. I'd be curious to hear if anyone is able to predict the ending. I am, because I know Agatha Christie too well. The next thing I watched, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, which is an Ang Lee movie. I bought that. I talked about that before. Pretty good. It's like Yi Yi and Big Night had a little brother. It's not quite as charming or as good as the other two, but it is at very least
interesting,
worth your time.
Good food scenes.
Yeah, good food scenes. They're kind of I would have liked more. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But what was there was good. Baraka, which is a 1993 documentary of sorts. It's just nature footage and there's no commentary. It's great. It's beautiful. I've seen bits and pieces before, and I finally watched the whole thing all the way through. It's kind of great for being just shots, random shots of nature and around the world for an hour and a half. My mom loved it too because we watched it together. Watched Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, directed by Alfonso Cuarón. It is it's a masterpiece. It's not. It's like it's a really great movie that I am so astounded that someone let him make that movie that I cannot help but just give it 5 stars because I'm like, fuck it, you did it. You won the blockbuster franchise lottery and somehow you made the most of that. I watched Touch of Evil. Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I watched Touch of Evil again. Talked about that already. I watched Martin Scorsese's Shutter Island, which I will bring up during our Goodfellas discussion, just because I have an interesting relationship with Scorsese, and I think Shutter Island displays some of his both best and worst tendencies all in one interesting package.
This is going to be the split take of the century.
The Outlaw Josie Wales, directed by Clint Eastwood.
Everyone's favorite boomer.
It's such an interesting beginning of the film because he is playing a Confederate soldier and he's clearly sympathetic, and like the movie is clearly sympathetic 100% towards Confederacy and is very critical of the Union and talking about the bad shit they did, which they did do bad shit. It's war, but
yeah,
it's tantamount to endorsing the cause of the Confederacy, which I think is just bad propaganda, filmmaking, ideology. It's also clearly evident in the fact that or ironic that the most conservative and America-loving of Hollywood's actors, Clint Eastwood, was the one that made a pro-Confederacy movie. It is, however, one of the best, has some of the best representation of Native Americans I've ever seen in a Western.
That's interesting.
A+ on that. Most of the Confederacy stuff is front-loaded in the film, and once you get past that, it's a pretty decent Western. Nowhere near as good as Sergio Leone's stuff, though.
Clint is an interesting man.
Good old Clint.
I think Clint's a great director, but he's
good.
Yeah.
And then I watched Mike Leigh's Mr. Turner. Great, beautiful. It's too long, but I
agree.
I don't think that's irrelevant criticism because I think it's exactly paced and produced the way Mike Leigh wanted it to be, and I think it overall it was good. It was a good time. You kind of have to get in the mood for art and enjoying the beautiful cinematography and just a very slow, subtle character work going on in that film.
It's definitely too long, but it's one of those things where me personally, I can never have enough Mike Leigh. And is not every movie made a little bit better with the inclusion of Leslie Manville?
She only has the one scene, and she makes the most out of that scene.
She does.
I'll watch it again just for that.
Yeah.
That's what
I gotta watch the commentary. I have it. I love Mike Leigh's commentaries. I'll get it to at some point. I'll go rapid fire here. I'll go with 3 that I watched that were just pretty good. I watched The Gambler, starring my favorite Twitter personality, James Caan. which it's a very simple movie. It's a 2-hour character study about a gambler who gambles and why gambling's bad. It's good. It's kind of my favorite thing. I love movies about gambling. This is not as good as like Uncut Gems or California Split, but it's very, very good. I watched River's Edge. I just watched that last night. So yeah, it's a movie about a little town in the Pacific Northwest, somewhere in North California, Oregon. It's a little high school where one guy murders his girlfriend. That's how the movie begins. It's just he murders his girlfriend. He tells everybody he knows that he murders his girlfriend and takes them to see the body of said murdered girlfriend. And it's basically a movie detailing the fallout of it. It's odd because this movie was made in '86. It has Dennis Hopper.
I get Brick vibes from that premise in a way.
Kind of.
Very different. I can tell it's different, but kind of anyway.
It's interesting because that's like it's almost like sets it up to build a mystery out of it, but there is no mystery. It's just them dealing with, like, Crispin Glover's in it and he's just trying his best to cover this up and defend his friend who killed somebody. Keanu Reeves like immediately goes to the cops. Dennis Hopper's in it, who plays like their weed dealer's kind of crazy. But what blows my mind about this is that this was made in '86 and there's a lot of imagery that feels super Twin Peaks, especially that first season. But this is '86, so it came out like 4 years before Twin Peaks, has Dennis Hopper. It makes me wonder if, God, look, the poster itself, it's hard to see, but that is a dead woman.
Yeah, I can kind of
just
tell that.
In the river, it's pretty good. But two movies that I have to shout out because they're fantastic, one of which is Babylon. It is a movie about a group of Jamaican immigrants living in England in the early '80s. It is fucking amazing. It feels very much like Ken Loach and Mike Leigh. It's just, it's character driven. It's clash conscious. It's just about these people living in this time period. Super nuanced takes on racism and this sort of cycle of violence. It's so seeped in the culture of like reggae and just the Jamaican experience with a lot of you need subtitles for this. I think it even puts it on for you at some points because I don't understand what they're saying. It's heavy slang. The music is amazing. The ending is fantastic, and it's one of those things where, it so accurately depicts this culture that I just assumed that the guy who made it was black. I look at the Q&A, whiter than Mike Leigh. Wow. It's just the full cast and crew is nothing. They're all Jamaican guys, and then just the director just right there, the whitest Britishest guy that ever lived. Very good. I recommend it. It's about to come off the Criterion channel.
The Babylon kind of reminds me, at least the premise, what I heard from you so far, it kind of reminds me of Steve McQueen, the director, Small Axe, which is deals with a lot of immigrants.
Same time period too.
England, yeah. So a lot of similarities.
It's also
one, I need to finish watching that, and two, I should just watch Babylon too. It sounds kind of similar.
It's also very similar to Blind Spotting because it's about a main character who has a friend who's white and the fallout from that, whatever. And finally, the movie that I watched, which just went to my top 3 of this year, that is William Friedkin's Sorcerer.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit.
A while ago.
That was like a week and a half ago. So it's, if anyone doesn't know, it's a remake. He says it's not a remake because he more inspired it off the book, whatever. It's based off The Wages of Fear, which is a story about desperate men who drive trucks full of highly explosive nitroglycerin through the South American jungle in order to earn enough money to get the hell out of the South American jungle. I like The Wages of Fear. I've seen it. I have the Criterion. It's very good. I think the ending's kind of stupid and it's a little too long. That was my big complaints. Sorcerer fixes both of those, and it makes the actual gas scene, the transporting scenes, somehow makes him 10 times more anxiety inducing. This might be the most nervous I've ever been watching a movie. It is absolutely insane. You just take a premise like that is so inherently batshit insane. You make it in the 70s and you have William Friedkin direct it, and it's just bound to be the most insane movie. I looked into this afterwards. There's a great interview between William Friedkin and Nicholas Winding Refn on this movie specifically. I recommend you guys listen to that. But great movie. 3rd favorite of the year so far. But yeah, that's all I've been watching.
Great. So we are now on to our BFI movie of the week. The movie is the one, the only Goodfellas. Goodfellas, if you don't know, is a 1990 film directed by Martin Scorsese. It's a gangster film starring the one, the only Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, and
Lorraine
some
Bracco,
other people
Paul
you may or
Sorvino.
may not have heard of. Those are less famous, but still they are great actors. This is, of course, it is a classic Martin Scorsese joint. So, as you know, it has to have been edited by Thelma Schoonmaker, the wife of our favorite Michael Powell of Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. Little film history there. It's based on a book called Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi. And it is on, I believe, have you? Well,
I have,
be curious to hear a little bit about the book, but it is on the director's list. It is not on the critics list. It is
That's cringe.
Number 48 on the director's list, voted for by it's number 48 on the directors, 171 on the critics list. See if there's anyone interesting who voted. Director Guillermo del Toro voted for that. David O. Russell, and those are probably the biggest names of people who voted for Goodfellas.
Not helping the cause.
Yeah, so Goodfellas is about the life and times of Henry Hill, who starts a young man who is infatuated with the life of mobsters and eventually gets into that lifestyle as kind of a hitman muscle type guy, low level. And he makes friends with the Joe Pesci and
he became the good fella.
He became a titular good fella. And he meets Jimmy, who's played by Robert De Niro, who's a very violent man in the mob, yada, yada, yada. Things happen, and it all eventually goes downhill. This is our first Martin Scorsese film. We're going to be talking probably a bit about Scorsese, and I have an interesting relationship with him, as I've never been quite as enamored with him as other people have been.
Cringing at the moment.
I know what Chandler thinks of this film, but for your benefit, dear audience, Chandler, what did you think of Goodfellas? And how many times have you seen it?
This is probably, I want to say I'm somewhere between 20 and 25 times seeing Goodfellas. Goodfellas was the first movie that I watched where I thought, oh, this is cool. This is much better than The Cat in the Hat starring Mike Myers. And it brought me down this rabbit hole of film.
Can't agree with you there.
Got me to where I am today. And for the longest time, it was my favorite movie. Now it's like number 3 or 4. Recently, oh no, I think it's number 2 now. Doesn't matter. Recently uprooted by Inside Llewyn Davis, but doesn't matter because I still think this movie is absolute perfection. This time I watched with a commentary, which is not even really a commentary. It was just a bunch of interviews that you can clearly tell were done somewhere within the last 20 years, strung together, but it didn't matter because it offered a lot of interesting insights. But I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I do think this deserves to be on the list, if anything higher. It's one of my favorite movies. I think Scorsese's objectively best movie. You probably disagree, but I'm curious to hear you because I like Martin Scorsese a lot. I don't like the same movies that a lot of people like, except for Goodfellas and Taxi Driver. But I think he's just one of the most important filmmakers of all time. And he's one of the few that have managed to stay relevant way past his peak, quote unquote.
So I am a well-known and vocal Scorsese contrarian. I will, however, agree that he is one of the most important filmmakers of all time. I would, however, disagree if you attempted to tell me he's one of the best filmmakers of all time. But that's an argument perhaps we need to get to when we watch Raging Bull and Taxi Driver, as those are considered his best, although those are 2 films which have left me cold after watching.
I agree with you on Raging Bull.
I'm very much aware of Scorsese's artistic talents when it comes to those films, and I'm less so convinced. So it's interesting because I watched Taxi Driver, and I know I'm going to like it more next time I watch it. It just wasn't the right time.
It's a meme.
First time,
it's a joke.
It is at this point, and I refuse to watch it simply, 1, to wait for the podcast, and 2, just to frustrate Chandler and our friend Nick.
It's true. It's working.
But even on a first viewing, I could tell the significance, the impact, the aesthetic brilliance of Taxi Driver, and including Raging Bull. I think Taxi Driver has the ability to potentially go up in my estimation by quite a bit. Raging Bull, I am less sold on in general.
Yeah. Okay.
And it mostly comes down to the storytelling, because I think Martin Scorsese has an interesting way of telling and relating stories, which I think just doesn't pull me in. And really, my only big complaint, whatever you want to call it, when going into a Scorsese film is I'm never invested fully. I feel like there's more investment that I could be giving, and I just can't for some reason. And I've tried a few of them a couple times. And beyond Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, I think he has a powerful grasp on the language of cinema, but in a way that just doesn't resonate with me as being particularly interesting in and of itself. It feels like a very refined, average filmmaking. Like this is how you put a scene together. This is what you do. This is how you make it interesting. You do this. There's a scene. It's good. It's well directed. Anyway, Goodfellas. I like Goodfellas quite a bit. It's a lot of fun. It's 4.5 stars in my estimation. I can't give it 5 stars. Terribly sorry. This is I've probably seen it 4 times at this point, and probably the most of any Scorsese, I think.
I think it's his most rewatchable. It's fun. It's his most fun.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I'm trying to juggle like my thoughts on Scorsese in general and then my thoughts on Goodfellas. I did when I watched this, and then I recently rewatched The Irishman, which is very similar to this. And I almost want to say like someone needs to create like a box set. You know how like Criterion does like 3 film box sets? Like there's a Ingmar Bergman 3 film set that's just like 3 films that are loosely related to each other. They have nothing to do with each other. They're just related. I feel like Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street, and The Irishman need to all be put together because it's all very similar.
I agree. They're all very similar.
They are all at the top of my list of favorite Scorseses, and I was actually redoing that list since I watched this and the Shutter Island for the first time. I feel like I have the weirdest Scorsese ranked list because none of it makes sense, and I fully appreciate that, the fact that Taxi Driver and Raging Bull are way at the bottom, and I've put Wolf of Wall Street way at the top.
A lot of people really like Wolf of Wall Street, though.
Yeah,
not me.
So I suppose my main issue with Goodfellas is that I feel like the pacing, going back to Marty's storytelling abilities, and it's not a third act slump or second act slump. Don't get me wrong. The first half of the film I feel like is not well paced in relationship to the whole, because it's really once we catch up to the burial or the killing and them burying the body that's in the trunk.
Yeah.
Then like there's a clear progression of events, an escalation of conflict within the mafia that kind of propels the second half of the movie to be really engaging. But the first half of the movie
that's so interesting to me. Everybody says the opposite.
Interesting, because here's a kid. He wants to be in the mafia. He gets in the mafia, and please explain to me where the character development is for any of the rest of the film, like or the stakes. There isn't. There's no stakes either.
Yeah.
Like he's never in genuine threat until
I disagree.
Into the third act when he fucks up.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's there's not much in the way of tension, stakes, character development. We start and he's enthralled with the mob, and we end, he's still enthralled, but he's done. He can't go back.
Yeah.
And so that just doesn't like interest me fully.
That's interesting.
I don't want to say it doesn't interest me because it does.
No, yeah, I get it.
This is why I can't give it 5 stars. I would like more from Henry Hill's character.
Here's my question.
Some more kind of disillusionment or something.
Yeah.
But
Here's my question then. I would assume that you would give Godfather 5 stars.
Shit, why does it do this?
What?
So I don't know. Adobe Audition has been recording and then just stops recording all of a sudden, which is great because Zoom records the audio. So I can, there's always a backup. Sorry, I need to start recording again on Audition.
Vibing.
Goodfellas too. It did this with Inside too. I caught it sooner though. Okay. I'm back. You had a question.
My question was, would you give Godfather 5 stars?
Yeah.
That's where I don't, this is my hot take, because I wouldn't. I would do like the same thing you do, 4.5. Because to me, Goodfellas, it's so I read the book too. I've seen the movie like 10 plus times before I finally read the book. And the book is essentially, it's an autobiography by this guy in the mafia. And, reading through it, he doesn't learn anything. It's just his life and how he got caught. Because to me, Goodfellas is not about Henry. It's about the mob. And to me, it's because Scorsese is like sort of playing with this idea, this notion that people have of the mafia. He never uses the word mafia once. They say gangster once in the beginning. They don't say mobsters. They say wise guys, good fellas. Wasn't that family?
I thought I heard that on the commentary where like someone asked him, "You can't use the word mafia in the film," and we'll
yes. Because they don't really. Because as much as I like The Godfather, the one thing that never really resonates with me is that this fantasy make-believe version of something that's so real to me never quite sat right, because it's a very Shakespearean movie. You have the codes of honor, you have family, you have all these different themes, these super well developed characters, and they're in this fantasy version of the mafia. Goodfellas just destroys all of that, and what really highlight this movie really highlights as far as Scorsese's strength is his like obsession with like processes and rituals. Because to me, that's like most of this movie. You're seeing exactly how these people live, how fucked up this whole life is. And yeah, there's no character development because I don't think there's supposed to be. I mean, Henry Hill, he's run through this machine, and you can see just how this family, this culture is not meant for longevity, something that he explores more deeply in The Irishman. But this idea that he just goes through it and everyone he knows is either dead or in jail. That's the whole point of it to me. That is it's a forced character progression, not by the characters themselves, not by their own actions, but how their actions play into the larger whole that is this mafia structure. But again, what really makes this movie, especially that first half, which you say you don't like, which, I can see why you don't. But to me, like, well, you don't like it as much.
Comparatively.
Yeah.
With the second half.
Yeah. And to me, it's not about, because at the end, as much as I love the ending, which I do, that's the least fun part because everything catches up with it. It becomes a matter of, oh no, this lifestyle is gone. It's all the actions have consequences or whatever. But that first half is just all about this little minutia of what, how this world that is so interesting and unique to so many people is run, the reality of it all. And there's just scene after scene of just wonderfully constructed scene only specific things that don't necessarily factor into the whole story, but it's fun. It's fun. Not a moment of this movie is not fun for me.
It's a film that has a lot of fun, and I don't want to disagree with you, but I felt like there could have been more like how this mafia works kind of stuff, because you get a sense that Paulie, who's the main mob boss of this particular group of mafia, you never really get much of a sense of what's going on with them, because Henry Hill's kind of like a few steps down. He's doing his own thing with Jimmy and all that kind of stuff. So it's more so like what kind of crime stuff they're doing, and occasionally they pay tribute to Paulie and yada yada yada. And like I don't know, like part of the interesting stuff from the second half of the film has almost nothing to do with Henry Hill as a character. And I don't think you need to necessarily have him be in threatened or anything. Like, I don't think the stakes need to be built off of him if it is just a portrait of the life. But part of it is like when they do the Pan Am? No, the Lufthansa heist.
Lufthansa, the big one.
That is really interesting. Like the fallout from that heist and Jimmy going kind of a little crazy, and all of the people like making little mistakes here and there. That's interesting. Like there's a cause effect. It's
like Rafifi.
You can see one person does something wrong and that gets them killed. And a great scene where Jimmy just reams everyone out for buying things and being idiots as they're walking into the Christmas party at the bar.
The mank coat.
That's great. Like there's a real sense of here's something that they're trying to accomplish. Here are where it goes wrong, where it goes right, what the consequences are for certain people. And it like the first half of the film is more about just hanging out. For me, it is more about hanging out with Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci in particular. Like if I return to Goodfellas for any reason, it's Joe Pesci, and he's the best part of the first half of the film. I mean,
I agree.
The scene where you think I'm a funny guy, that's
classic.
Just
that's
classic
cinema.
Scene. Excellently filmed stuff, and of course the famous tracking shot into through the basement and the kitchen of the Copacabana. There's a lot to love, and there's a lot to like in that first half. And there are little glimpses of conflict, like in that particular scene where he's like Ray Liotta's character, he just said the wrong thing, and you can't quite tell if Joe Pesci is actually angry with him or if he's just pulling his leg.
Yeah.
And you figure out he's just pulling his leg. But it's interesting how like in his head, in the voiceover, he talks about how like, well, I mean, I'm either a dead man or I'm not, so I might as well call his bluff, and the interesting little rationale behind that. But the fact is, like a lot of those scenes, it's like, here's one scene, here's the next scene, here's the next scene, and there's not much connectivity between the two of them other than going through what's happening with the mob. And that's what I didn't particularly care for in the first half. And I think there's more connectivity in the second half where not necessarily conflict or anything, but it's a progression of this leads to that, and things are reacting to each other, even if it doesn't necessarily have to be conflict or doesn't necessarily have to be character development.
Yeah. Well, see, that first half to me, it's all about the seduction, because that's what this whole thing is. It's a very powerful lifestyle with a lot of appeal to it to a certain type of people.
It gets the seduction right.
Yeah, and that first half, it's just. That's why the third part is so compelling to me, because it's just you're building and you're building and you're building, bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and the second half shows that these actions have consequences. Those stakes aren't present in the first half because it's all about the fun and the seduction and the invincibility that all these characters feel. It's that sense of invincibility that I think really makes that second half so much more powerful, especially when Henry himself is put into danger, because this whole time you're seeing people like what's his name, Maury get killed on a whim because they're annoying, and you get this sense that like, okay, people just die for no reason. That's another really great scene towards the end when Henry is finally caught by the cops, where he basically says like, at first I thought I was dead, but then I remembered if it was a wise guy, I would not have hurt him. I just would have been dead. And
that's the whole sequence. That one day, like it just goes through. It starts in the morning. It's great. One of Scorsese's best sequences, I think. Edited wise.
I agree.
Direct.
Did you listen to the commentary?
I don't think I got that far.
It's funny.
Almost to that point, but not quite.
Yeah. At the end of the commentary, that's part in specific, which, that's another one of my favorite sequences, is just him driving around looking at that helicopter.
Yeah.
It was either the writer or one of the producers that said that like they had some friends who used to do cocaine, and anytime they'd get the itch to do it again, they would watch that scene in particular because they felt that it really nails that sense of paranoia. And I think it's
really
too.
Great, like subjective filmmaking from his Henry Hill's point of view about kind of getting across to the audience the kind of twitchiness and the paranoia and everything, and it's coming through with the editing and obviously the acting, but a lot of it, like Thelma Schoonmaker, great job editing this film.
And another thing to me, going off what you said about Henry Hill, and I do agree, Henry Hill of all the characters is like one of the least interesting. I don't find him uninteresting, but he's one of those characters that to me, he just feels like he's the gateway into this world, into the more interesting things. I find of all the characters, I mean, obviously, Joe Pesci, Tommy is very interesting, but my favorite is always Jimmy, good old Robert De Niro, because I feel like this is the kind of
Bobby De Niro.
This has another thing in common with The Irishman, which are little flaws that I find charming. In The Irishman, there's a scene where a very clearly 80-year-old Robert De Niro has to do some physical activity reminiscent of a younger self. Every time Robert De Niro is introduced in this movie is the young 20-something-year-old Jimmy Conway, and then it just looks like Creed with the ink in his hair.
Mm-hmm. This is the reverse image of The Irishman when he gets old. It's great.
It's fine because I mean it works, but like it's just you're not fooling anyone. You're 42 and it's fine. But yeah, like the way his character devolves, especially in the end, is just I get more out of that every time. And people like Paulie. I also love Billy Bats, good old Frank Vincent, who recently passed away, and Lorraine Bracco. Because if there's one thing that has only gone up in my appreciation every time, it's her performance, specifically her character, and just how many goddamn Sopranos actors are in this movie. It's funny to me. Like Spider.
Yeah. So she does like a great job. And part of the disappointment in this particular viewing is the fact that she has an interesting role to play in the film with regards to voiceover. And she's the only other person in the film with a voiceover besides Ray Liotta's character, which just kind of gets dropped at some point. Like, I feel like the ending of the film does a disservice to her character, who we've been through so much with, and it just kind of like, okay, they got divorced, bye, and she drops off the edge of the film. I would have liked some sort of resolution, almost like bringing back her voiceover in the end, or something to say like how she feels about it. And I don't know. I don't want to say like she gets marginalized in the narrative, but I do think at times she does, and more of an element for a device for Henry Hill and creating conflict in that.
That stuff in particular, the more and more I learn about Scorsese, the more I find it interesting, because I have the Scorsese shorts or whatever, and a lot of Goodfellas specifically is in those shorts, because obviously he's a man who's infatuated with the French New Wave and the playfulness of that specific time in filmmaking. And I think that comes out like with just little oddities throughout the film. Lorraine Bracco having a voiceover.
Definitely. This also, and The Irishman, as I was rewatching that recently, has a couple Godard references editing wise that I can pick out these days.
Like there's the Lorraine Bracco has a voiceover. Henry Hill addresses the camera at the end.
That's a great moment.
Yeah. The Tommy with the gun at the end. The great train robbery reference.
Oh yeah.
Even that slow-mo, which again, it's one of the best shots in all of cinema.
Where was the
which
slow-mo?
Is Robert De Niro at the bar looking at Maury with the cigarette. Sunshine of Your Love plays the do 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 do. And I don't know, again, it's completely interruptive to the movie because it's the only time slow-mo is in, but it's just such a perfect shot. And that one in particular, this is where I learned a little bit more about Scorsese's style, where, when he's in the writing phase or the shooting phase, that's when he comes up with the songs and he'll write them spontaneously. Because I know a lot of people mimic this style of filmmaking where, fun action scene montage over a song. No one does it like him. And I think he just has this spiritual connection between music and film that I really don't think anyone else can do. And whenever anyone else tries it, I get annoyed. But when Scorsese does it, I'm like, magnifique.
It's interesting. This is one of the pet peeves I have about Scorsese in general. And this was brought out to me in this viewing, particularly reviewing The Irishman, which I love. I potentially like The Irishman more than Goodfellas.
I can see it because that's also a masterpiece.
Interestingly enough, for a very similar reason why you prefer Goodfellas over The Godfather, I just find The Irishman to be a much better expression of the reality of this kind of life. And one of my issues with the end of Goodfellas is that like it definitely, like, it starts with the seductive power of this lifestyle. And I almost want to say, for the entire film, it is very much almost romanticizing the lifestyle. Like I think anyone who watches Goodfellas, I don't think anyone's getting turned off from a life of crime by watching Goodfellas. Even at the ending, like it gets off pretty easily at the end for being a drug dealer and being party to murders and
just a few years
doing fine. But I think that's one of the reasons why I like The Irishman more is like he's just a lonely old Robert De Niro, lonely old man, and he had to put down poor Al Pacino. Oh.
Which I agree. I will say this, of all of Scorsese's movies, I think Travis Bickle is still my favorite Scorsese character, but a close second is Al Pacino's Jimmy Hoffa. It's like, I don't know if you saw this recently, just complete tangent.
Okay.
But recently the Teamsters Union signed a landmark deal, because I guess the Teamsters Union's still alive. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, unions still mafia, believe it or not, guys. That's still a thing. There's still a mafia. It's not a thing of legend. Yeah,
Teamsters specifically, I didn't realize were still around. But I was looking through Twitter recently, and yeah, they said breaking the Teamsters just overwhelmingly voted to pass a landmark and unprecedented resolution to unionize Amazon, which will soon be the largest employer in the U.S. Here's the vote count, and then this was the top replied image.
Solidarity.
And then the other most replied one was, if you got it, a truck delivered it.
Watching The Irishman,
love The Irishman
again right after Goodfellas, both highlighted the fact that I prefer the narrative arc and storytelling of The Irishman more, but the editing and the filmmaking in Goodfellas is just top peak performance, Marty, and it can't perform like The Irishman is well shot, well edited, but it can't quite perform at that level. Even though I
agree,
I enjoy watching it a little more.
Yeah, they're on the same wavelength.
But
to me, Joey, just to quickly go on your point at the end there, I think that's part of what I like about the movie is at the end, Henry Hill he gets off easy. But to me, it's not a detriment, because when he gets off, he doesn't learn anything. He's at his house getting his paper, and the only thing that upsets him is that it's over. Doesn't matter what happened, all the people that he fucked over, all the people who are in jail, all the people who are dead. He's just upset that he has to be a normal guy again. And to me, that's like the whole crux of the movie, is that it's not about people. It's not about learning. It's about the seduction. And when it's not there, that feeling of emptiness.
Yeah. And I guess for me, that point doesn't compel me for 2.5 hours. It does compel me to a certain extent, just not for the length and the way that Scorsese tells the story. So going way back to what I was trying to get at before we kind of went on this Irishman, Jimmy Hoffa tangent.
Love Irish.
Scorsese has an issue with music in that he overuses music. And over time, I've just become more and more annoyed with music as a crutch. And I don't think Goodfellas quite gets there. It's almost there. I can never complain about classic songs from the 50s and 60s. And it's all great music. But there are some movies of his, and I think Goodfellas almost teeters on this, where he just uses music way too much. And I don't know why people don't find this annoying. Genuinely annoying. Like if I was in a worse mood, I might find Goodfellas annoying for how much music he relies upon to make scenes work sometimes. But The Irishman, unfortunately, that's one of my biggest complaints with The Irishman is it reuses music a lot, and then some music it's just but Shutter Island, Jesus Christ. Let me bring this up. A little side tangent. Oh my God. That film has a lot of good stuff going for it. But it is some of the most heavy-handed use of music I've ever seen, and it's Scorsese should be above it. And it's interesting. Like there's just a spectrum of Scorsese using too much music and Scorsese using too much music where it's okay. And Goodfellas, it's okay. It's good. Approve of the music choice. And sometimes Shutter Island, it's like, well, you're just using this as a crutch to make things interesting when it's just kind of a poorly paced film.
There are some movies I feel that way. For me, that's a huge issue with Dazed and Confused is a movie that does that, I think. But I don't know. I think there's so many of Scorsese's music choices, specifically in Goodfellas. There are ones that I agree with you that he uses it too much. But in Goodfellas, so many of them are like, not just they work well for the scene, but I mean, they're iconic. Yeah. From Rags to Riches, iconic movie opening. And Then He Kissed Me, iconic scene composition. The Sunshine of Your Love. I don't remember the name of this one, but whatever that song that plays when Henry Hill's driving around looking at the helicopters, just sporadically hear the singer go, whoa, and it's, I don't know, it works really well. And not only, I think that's an issue with The Irishman specifically because it's so, the time period until you get to the very end is very similar, so a lot of the music kind of sounds similar. But I mean, here you have like swinger stuff, then you have like Cream, and then you have 80s music, and it really helps to musically portray this passage of time, whereas something like The Irishman, Wolf of Wall Street, God, I will say this, okay. I agree with you for the most part that Scorsese relies too much on music, but for me, the most painful example is fucking Gangs of New York.
It's been a while.
You've seen that, right?
That. Yeah.
Well, the beginning starts with this beautiful fight scene between like the Catholics and whatever the hell Daniel Day-Lewis is, and they play Dropkick Murphys "Shipping Up to Boston," which is the song that they play in The Departed. And I'm like, okay, this is like a 2003 jam. You're playing over this 1800s brawl. It's stupid. But for Goodfellas, works. It works.
Yeah, it does work, and it's got a lot of great moments. And I suppose, as in summary, I just wish some of those moments were a bit more connected together and a bit more character development from, I think, everyone to a certain extent. Lorraine Bracca, I think, has one of the more interesting, and Jimmy, Robert De Niro, two of the more interesting kind of nuanced characters in the film. But in general, I do really like this film. I don't want to make it. I don't want to have it seem like I'm being
comparatively
harsh on it. I just see the glimmers, tendencies of Scorsese that kind of appear more obviously in other films that are just kind of little background notes here that I think could have been ironed out. But on the whole, Goodfellas is great. Editing in particular, I have to single out, and the shot work in the editing. Chandler already answered the question of does it deserve to be on the BFI list. I'm going to answer with a yes, actually.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Damn.
I don't think it's needs to be any higher, maybe a little lower, but
I'll say
at some point doesn't matter. It's good. It really good. It is a piece of film history, and I think it is one of, for me, Scorsese's best made film, even though it might not be my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
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 We'll see how that goes when we rewatch.
It's better than the Red Shoes. Driver. Just kidding. I don't know. Actually, it is, but yeah. So what's next?
So what is next? That's a great question. Who knows? Because I don't.
What happened to the list? I thought you used to have it on you.
I had a piece of paper, and I'm surprised I didn't lose it before now. It's around here somewhere. I did write down what was next somewhere on one of these random schedule. There we go. Goodfellas. So we did that. So we've been putting off Sancho the Bailiff for a while. I was going to see if Daisuke wanted to talk about that, but I think he's talked about that on the channel before, so maybe.
Okay.
Maybe we should watch that eventually if you're in the mood, or we could do Rear Window, or Luchino Visconti's The Leopard. So that's what's coming up.
Oh man.
Next episode we will probably record before the June Criterion Barnes & Noble sale, so we'll probably check in on that. And then we'll have a discussion maybe on the benefits of boring cinema. So we're not quite sure what the movie is. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and if by
the
the
great
time
pairing with Rear Window, the most unboring movie of all time.
If if we figured that out before I release this episode, I will put that in the show notes on the website, yada yada. So you'll know. Check that out. If there's nothing there, you'll know we haven't yet decided. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me I'm wrong about Scorsese. Tell me why you like him, and leave a like if you like it, and feel free to dislike if you don't like it. If I'm really triggering you with my Scorsese hot takes, I could have been harsher, but
we'll wait for Taxi Driver, or
we'll wait for Raging Bull. Yeah,
hey,
Taxi Driver. I will be quite positive. I think that will be a glorious triumphal return for
this is the Jacob Kaufman redemption arc.
yeah. I will try to, since I did watch Shutter Island, I'm going to try to watch a few more Scorsese's and kind of round out his filmography. So I have a better Bringing Out the Dead is on.
Yeah.
Prime. So I think I'll watch that soon.
I'm actually going to go ahead and decide next week what we're doing. I don't know about what movie, but I recall you did want to have a brief but heated discussion on Raiders.
Oh yeah, we can have a brief but discussion on that. Yeah. I can rewatch that. Let me put that on my schedule. All right.
Perfect.
So that's about it. Thank you for listening to the Split Take podcast. This has been another wonderful, fun episode discussing movies. I'll see you all later.
See ya. Get Stuckmanized.